Hello. So usually when I make these rewrite type of videos, it's from the perspective of like, man, I really liked that movie. It's just if there was one thing that could be a little different, I would have absolutely loved it. Madam Web is the first time I've wanted to make that kind of video, but I just don't know where to start with. And so going into this rewrite, so I didn't make more work for myself, I wanted to set three simple goals. I wanted to clean up the story a little bit. I wanted to give it some better action scenes that more fit this character and this movie. And I also wanted to pay off the premise of the movie. If you call a movie Madam Web, you're going to want to see that character be Madam Web and not just at the very end of the movie. And if you're going to put Spider-Woman in the promos, then you're probably going to have to show Spider-Woman too. So that is my goal in this rewrite. A couple quick side notes, caveats before I get into my rewrite. I did try and stick to the foundation of the story as much as possible without changing anything. So wherever I skip gaps, just know the movie probably just progresses as it did originally. And also, I am just going to pare down the characters to focus on just Julia. I'm going to call her Julia Carpenter in this video, even though they called her something else. That's not to say this movie doesn't work with the other two girls in it. I just think it's simpler if I focus on Julia. And so with that, here is my pitch for a rewrite of Madam Web.
Gaming cookie guy
Entertainment.
And so we open just like in the original in the Amazon. Ezekiel Sims is exploring with Constance Webb. She finds the mythical spider they have been looking for, but then she starts to go into labor. Now, at this point, La Aranya descends, they knock out Ezekiel, and they take Constance to that spider cave they had. So I found the whole tribe of Las Arañas to be kind of silly and distracting, and so I just wanted to simplify that down into one character. And heck, this could even be Anya Corazon. It could be anybody, but I wanted that one character that we could get to know. When she awakens, La Aranya tells her that they are the last of their people, and the spider that she's looking for is the last of its kind. Their people fought over this power of these spiders to both of their extinctions. La Aranya then asks Constance, who's still going into labor, mind you, why? Why does she seek the spider? Constance tells La Aranya that it is for her daughter. La Aranya asks what she is willing to do to save her daughter, and we cut. I like this setup because it gets us in and out of Peru before we overstay our welcome, and it sets things up nicely for some reveals down the line. So now we jump forward into our main plot of the story, and it progresses as normal. Cassie has her near-death experience, and that is what awakens her powers and connects her with the web of life and destiny. And at this point, I want to make her powers very clear to the audience so we can really follow what's going on, understand the rules of the game we're playing. At this point in my version, she's basically going to have like Groundhog Day powers. Whenever she dies, she jumps back a couple minutes in time to an earlier version of herself. And so we get that scene at the abandoned fireworks factory. What was that? The abandoned fireworks factory. And so during that scene, she dies, but she manages to jump back and save herself, but she can't save the other people that were killed, and she feels guilty. She's able to save herself, but it's kind of a selfish power at this point. She's not really able to help other people. And we see this motivates her because later on in the movie, when she is on the subway and sees Julia get killed by the human spider, wink, she feels that motivation to act and intervene and get Julia to safety. And no, I'm not changing the way her powers work. We just established how her powers work. No, she sees Julia killed, and then the human spider kills her, so there's no witnesses. Very, very importantly, early on, especially in this scene, we do not learn anything about this human spider character. As far as we know, he is an unkillable, unstoppable killing machine, and let's just keep it that way for now. It makes him so much scarier to us, the audience, and to the character to not know what this person is hunting you. Jumping forward now a decent bit to our next action sequence, let's get to the diner scene. This is our big turning point of the movie. Cassie has told Julia to stay out of sight while she did some digging on their villain, but because of Julia's irresponsibility, there will be real consequences. Because what is a Spider-Man movie without some consequences as a result of irresponsibility? I like revealing Sims as the villain now because at this point you might have forgotten about the assistant in the beginning of the movie. Not that that really matters. It just might be a nice reminder that this character was in the movie. What really matters is that this character is about to do some real damage. He's about to do some real personal stakes kind of stuff, and it's good to know our character at that point. And so the human spider tracks Julia down to the diner just after Cassie is able to get there, just like in the original movie. But unlike the original movie, here's where we actually get to see Cassie's powers used in an interesting and cinematic way. And yes, this is our real Groundhog Day, our Live, Die, Repeat, our Loki season 2 kind of scene if you're a Gen Alpha. This has been the tried and true method of using this type of power for decades now because it brings out some really fun and memorable scenes out of our characters. They're figuring things out. They're problem solving after iteration after iteration. We get a montage of Cassie figuring out how to save everybody in the diner, including Julia. And at first, she is getting killed almost immediately. She is respawning really quickly. But over the course of the fight, we see her learning, dodging, maybe even getting a hit in herself. Remember, her power is not physical whatsoever, so she's got to think her way out of this. This is a way to use this power in a unique way against the villain. Eventually, we get through so many iterations that we don't even know. We've lost track. Maybe even Cassie has lost track of how many times she's tried to play out this fight, and it has not gone well. The human spider is still a very formidable foe. She realizes she is not going to win this one. And so since she's got a minute or two to game plan, she calls up Ben. She tells him exactly what to do. We don't hear what she tells him to do, but she tells him exactly what he needs to do. And so we go through the fight like we always do. She's dodging. She's buying time, waiting for Ben to do whatever she told him to do. And that is when Sims catches up to her. He grabs her and uses his toxins to blind Cassie, but she's stalled. She knew this would be the outcome. In order to get everyone safe, to get them out of the diner, to give them time, to give Ben time, Ben crashes into the building with the ambulance, hitting both the human spider, Sims, and Cassie. Ben and Julia load up the newly blinded and now paralyzed Cassie and book it out of there. I gotta think this is at least a slight upgrade over the way they blinded her in the original movie, which made me laugh out loud in the theater when I saw it. She just gets hit in the face with a firework out of nowhere. No, in this version, she puts herself out there. There's some consequences to her actions. It is because of a character-motivated decision that she has this inflicted on her. But also, to keep the spirit of the original movie, I did have to hit Sims with at least one card. That was on my bingo board. And so at this point, we diverge from the original movie a little bit, and I'm going to pitch a new scene, a scene that avoids us having to go to Peru. Because why? Why did we need Cassie to go to Peru in the original movie? It just threw a wrench into an already bloated movie. We find Cassie is in the hospital, obviously. Julia feels guilty. She feels like she has to do something to make up for her irresponsibility, and so she goes and probably does another irresponsible thing. She says she's going to track down Sims on her own. So she leaves the hospital. We wait a beat or two, and then someone else walks in, this being La Aranya. They've come to do all the third act or midpoint reveals of the movie in stereotypical but effective fashion. And so we're going to get some flashbacks. We cut back to the cave. La Aranya is showing Constance a version of Cassie's life where she is constantly sick. She is constantly suffering, and she dies far too young. Then La Aranya offers Constance the spider and once again asks her what she is willing to do for her daughter's future. Is that the future she wants for her daughter? And she makes her choice. She allows the spider to bite her. We cut to the next scene, and La Aranya is holding a newborn Cassie. This is when Sims walks in, still hell-bent on getting his hands on this spider, even if he has to kill La Aranya. Now, he doesn't know if he can do that. He's heard all the mythical things about this person, and so he threatens instead to kill the newborn, just to remind you, hey, this is the bad guy. When the newborn child is threatened, La Aranya does not panic. La Aranya simply hands over the spider, but not without bestowing one little parting gift. La Aranya grabs Sims and shows him one vision of his future. That vision is Julia Carpenter's face, followed by a wall of fire. I know it's a subtle change, but I so much prefer this to the way they handled it in the original movie with a full scene of him being explicitly killed by the 3 spider women. His motivation's still the same. He fears death to the point where he is willing to do anything to prevent his future. And spoiler warning for my own version of the movie, I'm gonna fulfill this one. Like, I can't believe they copped out, chickened out of setting up this future for this character and then giving him a totally different outcome. No, if you set out a prophecy, you got to stick to it, or give me a really good reason that didn't happen as predicted. And finally, as a side note, I want to be clear that this version of this character does not have the ability to see the future. I want that to be special. I want that to be something that only La Aranya and Cassie Webb have. That is their power. He gets the physical side, she gets the mental. We then cut back to this web of life and destiny. La Aranya and Cassie are talking, and she unlocks her full potential. And once she does this, through the web, she is able to talk to her mother. And this is our real emotional scene. This is our heart of the movie. And finally, I would like to pitch a finale that I think pays off the promise of this movie at least slightly better than the Pepsi branded factory. My final set piece will take place at the Ezekiel Sims estate. Julia has infiltrated it. She is trying to get some kind of evidence on him that she can turn over to the police. Things are looking kind of hopeless for Julia until Madam Webb, now truly in her Madam Webb form, calls Julia, and she becomes the guy in the chair. She guides Julia through the mansion until she is able to find a secret room that hides Sims' whole operation, from the stolen NSA equipment to the mythical spider itself. Cassie asks Julia if she would like to embrace her future. And yeah, of course she does. She gets bitten by the spider, becoming Spider-Woman. Boom, we get Madam Web origin, we get Spider-Woman origin, and we get both of them using their powers. Was that so hard? Anyway, Sims comes back, and of course a fight now breaks out between the human spider and our Spider-Woman. This starts a fire, but now Spider-Woman, through her newfound strength and don't discredit the guidance of Madam Web. She is telling her every move to make before she can even make it. Through these efforts, she is able to easily counter the previously unstoppable villain. She wins the fight, and of course, as predicted, the last thing that Ezekiel Sims sees is Julia's face, followed by a wall of fire. Then we can have him like fully suit up, and we could do the fan service thing if you want, but that's the movie. Now, yeah, I know my version is a far cry from perfect, but I think it at least accomplishes the bare minimum of what one of these movies should do. It gives us the character that we paid the money to see, and we get to see them doing the things that we paid to see them do. And if I came off as overly harsh towards this movie, it is only because I love movies, and I love this universe of characters specifically, and I just want to see them do better. But what do you think? This is when I turn it over to you. Did you love the movie as written? Did you hate my rewrites? Did you like some of my ideas but have some of your own takes? Please let me know how you think Madam Web could have been made better. Please let me know in the comments and subscribe for the next rewrite. I will see you then.